All right, welcome to our presentation for this evening. I am going to introduce the seminar here in one moment, but I have a few housekeeping items. So allow me to share my screen real quick. Perfect. So for all of our participants this evening, welcome to our virtual college exploration for all of our Indiana students. For this evening, if you have questions for your panelists, please ask. All you will need to do is click your Q&A button and type your question in. The presenters will then answer those in a timely fashion based on how they're going to host their presentation this evening. Just as a reminder, your camera and microphone are off. You are muted for this entire session. So if you do want to once again ask questions, type those out and they'll be happy to respond. But also, this is not the only session. There are more. We encourage you to sign up for any one that you're interested in. You can just go to that website here, inacac.org/virtual-college-exploration. Also, say you have to sneak out, or if you know someone who's wanting to watch this but doesn't hop in until a little later, we are recording this session and it will be available to you to view later on. So without further ado, I will hand this over to our wonderful panelists for the evening.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the introduction. I appreciate it. We're really excited today to talk to you a little more about the admissions process. Let me go ahead and share my screen so you can see our presentation real quick. Here we go. So we're really excited to talk to you just about Admissions 101, what are colleges actually looking for? Because we recognize that there's been a lot of changes this year, especially with how COVID-19 has impacted students and families and how it's changed a little bit of the landscape within admissions too. So we wanted to just provide a little clarity for what it is exactly that we are looking for this year. I want to encourage you, go ahead and put those questions in the Q&A box as they come up, but we will answer those at the end. So I promise we're not ignoring you, but we promise to get to them when we hit the end of our session. So my name's Kelly Eiler. I'm an admission counselor with Valparaiso University, and I'm actually here with an incredible panel of experts from other colleges to help us get a wide range of how applications work for everybody, with different colleges in Indiana. So would you guys be able to introduce yourselves, please?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I am Angie Huffman with Purdue University, and glad to have you on and looking forward to talking more about this stuff.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Michelle Miller and I'm the Associate Director of Freshman Admission at Marian University in Indianapolis.
All right, and hello everyone. My name is Lauren J. I'm the admissions rep from DePauw University in Greencastle, Indiana. And like my panelists have said, thank you again for tuning in this Thursday evening to join us to learn more about this whole application process. So you guys, I'll get us started with common misconceptions. So you guys, if you're just starting your college search process or you are a seasoned veteran and you're a senior heading into application season, there might be some common misconceptions that you all have. So we're going to address a couple of those in this slide here. So first one, the more AP and dual credit courses I have, the better. Now, yes, we do want to see you guys challenging yourselves as you head into senior year, taking those harder classes to show us that you're ready for college level coursework. Now, we like to say, hey, it's always quality over quantity. So we don't necessarily want to see C's and D's in these AP and dual credit courses, really more A's and B's. So if you're like, yeah, I got to take 7 AP classes, but you're not doing so hot in them, we don't necessarily want to see that. So you guys know yourselves the best. You guys know what you are able to handle and how much rigor is too much rigor. So if you're comfortable with just 2 to 3 APs, maybe a dual credit course here and there, absolutely, you know yourself the best. Manage what you can manage. And then as long as we're seeing you challenge yourself, especially into your senior year, that's what we want to see as college reps. Pass-fail classes due to COVID-19 will negatively impact, your ability to be admitted. So you guys, we are very compassionate. I promise you, my colleagues on this panel, we always are looking for ways to admit you guys. And when it comes to pass fail, that's out of your guys' control. There are a lot of schools who've decided, hey, we're going to take pass fail classes, or maybe you opted in and said, you know what, I'm not a great learner via virtually, so I'm going to take this semester to do pass fail. What we're going to do when we're reviewing your application is we're going to look at your semesters where you actually have tangible grades and letter grades. So do not worry if you happen to have a semester, or maybe you had to do a pass fail class, given the fact that you are not the best at virtual learning, and that's okay. We're going to base it off of what we do have from your transcript. And if you guys want, there's a COVID section on the common application this year. So if you want to talk about how pass fail classes or virtually learning has impacted you as a student, that would be a great section for you to utilize to tell us more about that. Ooh, so 1F will affect my ability to be admitted into college. You guys, that's a myth. It's okay if you have one bad blip in your transcript. We ultimately want to see, okay, yes, there's this one, maybe not so great grade here. Did you retake the course? Or, hey, your first couple of years might have been a little rough, but as you headed into your junior and senior year, we see this amazing, uphill climb in terms of your grade trend. So we see a positive grade trend. One bad grade, you guys, is not going to make or break whether or not you get into any of our institutions here on the panel, or any other college that isn't on this panel. But we do want to see, are you able to overcome adversity? Are you taking the course over, or are you just improving your grades moving to future semesters? I don't need to take the SAT or ACT this year because schools are switching to test optional, test blind, text flexible. Oh my goodness, there are so many different terms. You guys, truthfully, I just learned about another term that Angie's going to be going over in the next part of the presentation. So you guys are not alone. We are learning along with you guys as well. So with regards to the test this year, you guys, a lot of us have decided to go one of these routes that you see listed here. My recommendation to you guys would be to please reach out to the admission counselor for each of the schools you are interested in, because everyone does it a little different. We don't necessarily want you to not take it at all, but hey, we are very aware that testing sites are being canceled. Everyone's trying to get the test completed this fall because they weren't happy with the first go around, or this spring they weren't able to take it at all. You guys don't necessarily need the test scores in order to be considered for admission or scholarships at either of our institutions. But in order to really determine that, please, please, please reach out to the admissions rep from the schools that you're interested in to see what their policies are. My colleague on the panel here, Angie, will be diving deeper into what all of these mean. So don't worry, I'm not gonna be like, okay, moving on. You guys will have an opportunity to learn more about what each of these different routes mean. Lastly, you guys, so my chances of getting admitted are lower this year because of how COVID-19 impacted colleges. And you guys, institutions like us, the colleges, we don't want smaller class numbers. We want to build our classes. So whatever the class of 2024 decided to do this year, whether they decided to defer a semester, defer a whole year, that will not impact how we consider you for admission for this upcoming class of 2025. So please don't stress, you guys. There are spots available. And if anything, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to us admissions reps.
So now that we've kind of talked through some of the common misconceptions, I'm sure you're thinking to yourself, okay, so what is it that colleges are looking for? And I think one thing that Lauren already said is we are looking for reasons to admit. I want you to remember that through this whole application process, as you're going through it with the different colleges, we truly are looking for reasons to admit. And I know some students can think of us as almost the gatekeeper, but that's not how we think of ourselves at all. We want to advocate for you and be there for you. So give us all of the materials you can to help us understand who you are so we can continue to advocate for you and find those reasons for admission. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what a holistic review is. This is how pretty much most colleges go about their review process. So colleges look at all of the pieces that you give them. There's not going to be one thing that makes or breaks it, right? So all of the documents, all of the information goes into play when we're reviewing applications and deciding on admission decisions. And so many things go into that. The first one is the application. That's just kind of how we get the basics and the background of who you are. So definitely fill it out thoroughly, right? This is where we see maybe what high school you go to, what major you're interested in studying, which actually gives us a little context with some of your other documents, knowing what major you want to go into. This is where you can also talk about some activities you're involved in. And this is also a place where you can just elaborate on a few things if needed. For example, the COVID-19 section that Lauren mentioned on the Common application, and I know we'll touch on it a little later too, you'll hear about it a couple times. That's available for students where you can elaborate on how COVID-19 has impacted you and your family if it has. And then there's sections where you can just kind of talk about general, if there are any dips within your transcript. So this is how we get to know the background of essentially who you are. The transcript is the next thing. So most students know that we look at GPA, right? But that is not the only thing that we look at in a transcript. And so generally we're looking at grade trend, right? We want to see, A's and B's, probably a fairly consistent grade trend, or an upward grade trend can be a good thing too. Maybe you didn't have a great freshman year, but you picked it up sophomore, junior, senior year. We're definitely going to take that into consideration. We definitely don't want to see a downward grade trend, so do try to avoid that. However, if there are any little blips, like we were saying, if maybe you had one rough semester, maybe virtual learning wasn't your friend, and that is okay, then please communicate that to us. Either put it in your application, give us a call and talk to us about it. You can even put it in an essay. You know, those are things that we want to know more about because we really are trying to understand who you are and what we're looking at in the context of your full high school journey. Oh, along with one other piece I want to add to the transcript right before I jump in. AP, honors, dual credit courses, things like that. We are looking for that course rigor and for just the general courses that you're taking as well. So if you're thinking you might want to be in engineering, for example, we want to see 4 years of math and science. Valpo specifically, we like through pre-cal and through physics, right? That might be a little different at every school. So that's something to keep in mind, especially for those of you that might be juniors or younger, to go ahead and make sure you're choosing the courses that fit your career goals. So if you're thinking engineering, those heavy math and sciences. If you're thinking nursing, physician assistant, heavy lab sciences, things like that. Now to the SAT, ACT. We'll jump into that a little more as we were saying, but that is something that goes into the review if students choose to give that to colleges. We'll touch more how that is different for every college in a bit. The essay is one that is just a really nice way to get to know you as a student. Before this point, a lot of what we're looking at a lot of grades, we're looking at a lot of numbers, we're kind of getting the basics of what your classes have looked like. This essay gives us who you are. It's a great opportunity to talk about things you're passionate about, maybe a challenge you've overcome, things like that. I do want to encourage you, we don't go through it with a red pen by any means. We don't care if there is one misplaced comma around there. However, please do edit your essay, right? We do want to make sure that it is well written, uppercase I's, things like that, just to know that you did put time and effort into it. And letters of recommendation is the last tactile document that you can turn in. Letters of recommendation can be really great just to hear about your high school success, right? So definitely talk with mentors or pastors, coaches, teachers, counselors, whoever you have. Try to stay outside of the family if you can, but just find those people in your life that can talk about some of your successes that you've had in high school so we can see how you will be successful in college. So all of these pieces come into play when we are reviewing your applications, and we look into each of them to try to understand you a little better. So do be purposeful about giving us all the information just so we know what we're truly looking at. Like I said with the transcript, if there is a little dip, that's okay, but it's good to know why that happens because we're all human and those moments happen, right? And then last but not least, I do want to talk about demonstrated interest. This is something just to show that you're interested in a college. Okay, so the Common App, right? You can send it to multiple schools pretty easily too. And because of that, sometimes it's hard to tell if a student is truly interested in your college or if they're just kind of filing another Common App because they can. Whereas showing that you are interested is just kind of another little check mark while we're reviewing applications. And that can be done through texting us, emailing us, calling us, come visit, come do a virtual visit, meet us virtually for a high school visit. Maybe we met you last year at a college fair, you know, anything that shows us that you are interested in our college.
Okay, you guys, the anticipation has been building. I know you are patiently waiting, so let's dive deeper and figure out what these terms mean. So first of all, test optional. The ball is in your court as the student. When schools tell you they are test optional, whether it's for this year or they're across the board always test optional, this means that you get to choose. You get to tell the school whether you're going to send scores in and want those scores to be considered or whether you're not going to send scores in. So again, it's your choice to decide, which is awesome, right? Test flexible, a little bit different. So test flexible means that school prefers an SAT or ACT test score if at all possible. If not possible, for example, this year, particularly when there's been so many dates canceled and just the access to the test has been limited. Schools understand that, and those test flexible schools are saying, fine, if you do not have access to the test, you can submit your application without test scores. Test blind means the decision has been made for you. So whether you want to send or don't want to send your test scores in, that school is telling you if they're test blind that they're not going to consider the test score even if you provide one. So they're going to do their admission holistically or otherwise without considering SAT or ACT information. So keep that in mind. And the one that Lauren mentioned before that is pretty rare out there, I don't believe many of us will come across this, but there is a test conditional option out there for some schools. So those schools in this category will waive the need for standardized test scores if certain minimum conditions are met. So again, most of us won't run into that, but that is another possibility out there. So here's the caveat to all of these. And the ladies have mentioned this prior, is that you've got to touch base with those individual schools that you're really targeting to see what their definition of that term is going to be. So for instance, test optional, a school might say they're test optional and then for admission purposes only. So if you want to be considered for merit scholarship, they're going to want to see a test score. So it's dependent upon what they mean when they're saying test optional. You've got to make sure you check that out. Test flexible, for some schools, it means, okay, if you haven't had access to a test, then we'll accept the test and accept the application and review it without a test score. But other schools who are test flexible will say, yes, you can send your application in without a test score. However, we're going to want to see these XYZ things in place of the test score. So sometimes that means subject test from SAT or ACT, or some other type of testing that you've done through high school, or some type of classwork that you've done. So again, that test flexible definition is not 100% across the board the same at all schools. So you've got to check with the schools. Test blind, thankfully, it is what it is. That means they're not using the test score unless, again, for merit scholarships, they're thinking about it. So again, keep that in mind as far as all the differences that you're going to see as options for yourselves this year, and make sure, again, that you're connecting with those particular universities to make sure for their terms, you know what they mean. So with regard to the application, we want you to keep in mind that this is your opportunity to put your best foot forward. So if you were going for a job interview, or if you were meeting maybe a potential significant other for the first time, you're going to get dressed up. You're going to make sure everything's just right as you go into that situation. Your college application is the same way. This is the opportunity for schools that you're really interested in to get to know you, to be able to assess your ability abilities, but also know what other things you bring to the table and how you might match up with that university. So again, the application shouldn't be considered lightly. It is an opportunity, again, for you to show your abilities, show your talents, and show your interest in particular schools. So be thorough in your answers. Any short answer prompts still deserve a valid full answer in addition to the long answer prompt. So consider all things on the application as equal and make sure, again, you're looking for correct spelling and punctuation. And you're having somebody proofread things just to sharpen it up. Again, that best foot forward theory. Ask about those testing different terms and what they mean for different schools. But again, everything within those particular colleges that you're not quite sure what they mean, that's what we're for in the admissions office. So make sure you're touching base with us just to get clarification on things. We love it when you talk to us. That's how we can help advocate for you. If we never hear from you, we don't know what you need or what you want, we can't then go to bat for you. So make sure you're taking time to communicate with, again, the schools you're strongly interested in, so we have the opportunity to help you along the journey. Again, back to what Kelly said, we want to admit you. So give us that chance and those things that we will review and be able to say, yes, perfect fit.
Great. So I'm going to bring us home. We have given you a lot of information, and so we wanted to also give you some tangible examples to take away from the presentation. So we wanted to start off by showing you what a completed application looks like. So I use this example from Marion's application, and so this is just to show you to fully answer all of those questions. Make sure all of those blanks are filled in. We know what type of student you intend to be, when you intend to enroll, what your major is if you've decided on that at this point. And then also near the bottom, you'll see those boxes. We also want to make sure that you get those checked as well, particularly when it comes to the FAFSA and anything related to financial aid. Having those boxes checked, and that really gives us that information of, how are we going to be able to shape our conversations with you moving forward, and how can we best help you throughout this entire process. So please make sure that you answer those completely as well. This is an example of an incomplete application. So we don't have all the fields filled in here. There are some blanks. We're not sure what type of program you're interested in, whether maybe it's a 2-year program or a 4-year program, or if you intend to be a full-time or a part-time student. And we don't have that information down near the bottom regarding your FAFSA, or maybe if you're a first-generation college student. So these are things that are really important to make sure that you do fill in and let us know, what type of student you are, and again, give us that opportunity to get to know you a little bit better. So here's an example of a college essay. I did use this as an example from one of a former student that I worked with last year. I did get her permission to use this. And so as you can see in the little snippet that I included, she has really got a well-written essay here. She was having a little bit of a tough time in her senior year, and she wanted to be able to share that and explain some of these extenuating circumstances that were happening with her. So she's got great grammar and punctuation, all the capitalization is there. She tells a great story and really gives you that detail without being long and drawn out. So this is a really great example of what a well-written essay could look like. Now on the flip side of that, here is that same snippet, the exact same words, but with some mistakes. So as you can see, we've got some lowercase i's, we've got some missing punctuation, some words have been switched around and are out of place. And so there are these things that, as we've mentioned before, we're not trying to grade this essay and nitpick every piece of it. But this is really something that is important to look at and take your time on. Another thing to mention here would be, as you can see, there's a little alert at the bottom telling us that we haven't even met the word minimum for this particular prompt. And so that again is something to be mindful of, that if there is a minimum or maximum word count or page count, that you're falling within that and you're abiding by those. And so we've also addressed the COVID-19 question on the Common App a little bit already, but I did want to expand on it here and really emphasize that This is your opportunity to let us know if in some way COVID-19 has impacted you or your family. It doesn't even necessarily have to be in a negative way. We know that this has been a challenging year for a lot of people, but there could be some positive or maybe neutral experiences that have developed from this as well. And so this is really your opportunity to share what you feel comfortable with. And again, just to reiterate, really giving us that opportunity to get to know you a little bit better. So some major takeaways. These are really the things that we want you to walk away from this presentation with. So above all else, please take your time and really take your care with completing these applications and these supporting documents. We by no means want to stress you out or add any stress to the process. Of course, deadlines, are important, and you will continue to see deadlines come up. But again, just to take your time and really, as Angie mentioned, to be thorough with your applications. Double check these things like spelling, grammar, punctuation, capitalization. Have a trusted teacher, counselor, friend, or family member review your applications and maybe reread your essays just to get another set of eyes on those to make sure any of those little mistakes have been caught and cleaned up. Again, be yourself. We've said this quite a bit now, but really honestly help us get to know you. That's what again, we're here for. Something that is really important is to make sure that you're checking your email and your phone regularly for information and updates that are coming from all the different schools that you've applied to and that you're interested in. Something that I would suggest, if you're able to, create a specific email address that all of your college-related things can go to. And so that really helps you stay organized and know what you need to still complete and where you're at in the process in several different applications. But again, checking that and staying up to date in all forms of communication is going to be really important. And then lastly, utilize your resources. I am specifically talking about us. We are here to be that main point of contact for you. And if there's a question or something that we're not sure about, that's our job to help you find that answer, maybe connect you with another person or the right department on one of our campuses to make sure that you're getting all of your questions answered throughout this entire process.
So that is what we have today, everybody. We went ahead, we're gonna open it up for questions, so feel free to start putting those questions in the Q&A. We also wanted to provide you all with our contact information, so feel free, write it down, take pictures. As we were saying, we wanna hear from you, right? We wanna be able to advocate for you. So feel free to reach out to any of us if you need that contact or wanna connect. But for now, go ahead and ask any questions that you have in the Q&A box. I don't know if you guys have been watching. Do we have any of this?
Yes, I was going to say, Kelly, we did have a great question from an underclassman. So starting early, which high fives for starting the process early. Just some general advice about ways to connect, like whether, calling or emailing, and then what kind of information to expect from your admission contact when you are reaching out.
Yeah, so really ways to connect. There's so many different ways. You can kind of find whatever is most comfortable for you. You can definitely connect through email if you want to reach out. Many times every college has a general email you can reach out to, or you can usually look up your counselor on their website as well. So feel free, you can always do through email. Many of us text now, or you can give us a call, or we could meet virtually. So there's so many options, and it really, for us, it's just whatever you're most comfortable with. Now, if you ask us a pretty in-depth question over a text that we feel like might need a phone call to really explain, we may give you a call, but that's okay to start with a text. Just start with whatever you're comfortable with. And then what was the second part of that question? With what they would get from those?
Yeah, what kind of information? Because as underclassmen, you won't necessarily get dedicated, one-on-one kind of interview situation yet. You're just going to get more general information, correct?
Yeah, so you're really just going to get kind of general information about maybe what the university is like, maybe things to be thinking about now. Oftentimes I talk with students that are not at their senior year yet about, have you thought about taking the SAT or ACT when it is time? What courses are you involved in right now to make sure that you will be best prepared for when you are applying to colleges? So we will be talking about those kinds of things just to make sure that you will be set up for success when it is time to apply. And of course, we can just kind of give you some general knowledge of our university too, because I'm sure you're still kind of starting your search and trying to get a feel for how colleges are a little different. So we can help you gain an understanding of the major you might be interested in or the culture and community that is at our colleges too.
So another great question, with the uncertainty during this time, what registration deadline dates are most important? What should we be paying attention to for our seniors out there?
Would someone else like to take one?
Yeah, you guys, I'll go next. So every school is a little different, and in regards to when application deadlines are, you know, for DePauw, for example, we don't do rolling admissions, so we have set deadlines. And depending on what you are looking for, if you are, yes, this is my school, then early decision at any of our institutions would probably be the best route to go. But looking at what deadlines each school offers is probably one of the most important things, especially if you're a senior. So asking the reps, hey, I'm interested in your institution, would like to apply. What are the important deadlines that I need to be aware of? So again, reaching out to us. We're not scary, I promise. We want to help you. And then seeing if any schools as well have maybe additional programs that you may be interested in. So there's the general admission to all of our institutions, but then some of us do have additional programs. So for us, for example, at DePauw, we have programs that, you know, are due by mid-January. So if you're looking to apply to these different programs, there might be a separate deadline from the general admission to the institution. So making yourself, my best piece of advice, you guys, make a spreadsheet. I'm a very like list type of person. And then you can impress, you know, your guardians, your adults in your life who are like, look, I have a beautiful list of all the schools and when the deadlines are. And then that way too, it'll help you keep on track of, okay, I've submitted this already, or, ooh, this deadline is coming up. I need to work on this application.
Excellent.
Cool.
I just wanted to add into the conversation about everything that we've talked about thus far is keep perspective in what you're looking for from us as schools. We're definitely a resource for you, but we're going to provide you with the tools to be able to do some self searching on your own, because the decision is actually yours. So we're not going to tell you what to think or how to answer something or what decision to make. We're going to provide you tools to then make the decision. So know that, and know what schools you're looking at will, your response will be different. So larger competitive universities, schools out of state, you won't necessarily get that one-on-one contact. Sometimes you do, but not all the time. Whereas some of the great schools in Indiana, you're definitely, these faces here, you're going to see over and over again. So just, again, keep things in perspective and in how you're going through everything.
One thing that I would just like to add too is that if you're not sure where to start or what types of questions to ask, again, that would be a great start. You know, this is something that we do day in and day out, and we can help guide you with specific questions that you should be asking to all the schools that you're looking at, and, you know, some specific things that will really be important and helpful to consider if you're not sure where to kind of start that. Start it with us.
I don't see anything else in the Q&A right now. So you guys out there listening to us, think of your questions and definitely get those in there. But for now, ladies, would you like to give one solid piece of advice to our potential college students out there?
Yeah, definitely. I think we've touched application advice in general. So I think my overall advice is, and we've said this 1,000 times too, don't be afraid to use us as a resource for any question you have at any point in time. Even if you feel like it's dumb, I promise it's not. This college search process is totally new for you guys, and that's okay. We recognize that, and we want to help as much as we can. So Any question you have about our program, about how to, and maybe you don't understand a question on an application, or maybe you're not sure what visit opportunity would be best for you. There's so many things, even FAFSA related. We may not be able to help answer financial aid questions always, but we can help connect you with the people that can. So my biggest piece of advice is to definitely use us as a resource whenever you have questions.
Yeah, I'll go next. One of the things Kelly had mentioned is the term visit. And big thing, you guys, a lot of us, contrary to popular belief, we are indeed open for visits. So the best way for you guys to really determine if a school is right for you, visit our campuses. You know, some of us have self-guided tours, virtual tours, or even, yes, in-person one-on-one tours, information sessions, appointments with admissions reps. You can meet current students. I know for us at DePaul, we do virtual meetings with our faculty members. So if you guys would like to see, is this institution right for me? Yes, we can give you guys all the best information. We're all very proud of the institutions we work for. But at the end of the day, it's got to be what's best for you and your family. And if we could do our best to share all of the wonderful things, get you connected to the right people on our prospective campuses. But if you don't have that gut feeling, if you don't have that, like, man, I step on this campus and I feel like I'm home, then, we'll part amicably, and you'll go on to your next college visit, So I think you guys, for you who are just starting the college process, or even for those seniors who are narrowing down their list and trying to figure out, okay, which of my top 5 am I going to go to? Come visit us. We are open. And I think as long as you check in with the admissions rep from each school to say, hey, what are your policies for the campus? You can get all of your answers from us. Again, key theme, you guys, connect with us. That's kind of, I think, the biggest takeaway is we want to be your friends and we want to help you out. So we can't do that if you don't meet us halfway. So that's my piece of advice.
Yeah, I want to take us maybe just a little bit away from the application process itself, but I do think this is still a really good piece of advice that I want to share, that it is absolutely okay if you aren't sure what you want to study and what you want to major in. I feel like more and more every day I have these conversations with students that are feeling stressed and are feeling pressure of not knowing what to study and how to make their decision based off of that. So ultimately, what I want to stress is that you do have time, and that if you change your mind, that is absolutely okay. I won't speak for the rest of the ladies on the panel, but I changed my major in college. It is pretty common, and so just know that should not be an additional stressor on you throughout this search. And again, it's another resource where we're here to help with that.
Yeah, mine goes hand in hand with Michelle's. Is my best advice is don't be afraid to make a decision. The decision is yours. So tap into people's advice and listen, and get as much information as you can. But ultimately, make sure you're comfortable with making that decision. It's going to be okay. And be happy and proud when you make that decision and go all in, because that's when you will allow yourself to thrive and be successful if you're committed to your decision. Now, that doesn't mean that you won't make changes along the way, that you won't have to pivot or adjust. That's part of life. That's part of learning and growing. So that's going to be part of your journey. Like Michelle said, hers was changing her major, which I think most of us have done as well. So again, that is part of the journey, but don't be afraid. I meet students all the time that are just waffling so much between schools or between majors or between whatever it is, because they're afraid to mess up or make the wrong decision. That's not going to be the case. Prepare yourself, get the information before you, and be confident in the decisions that you make. Again, we had a quick question about the access to the presentation, and the presentation is being recorded, so students will have access to get the recorded presentation.
Great. Any other questions rolling in at this point?
Nothing's coming up in the chat.
All right, any final words from panelists? I think we all got to give a piece of advice unless there's anything else anyone feels a need to add.
You guys are going to do great. Go forward, keep doing what you're doing. We're
Yeah.
excited to be working with you. So
Yeah, and that's the truth. But I mean, always remember we're on your side and we recognize that this process can seem a little daunting, but we're going to be here to help you as much as we can. And you're going to get through it. And then college is going to be so fun. So it's going to be great in the end. And even though the process might seem a little daunting, I promise you, you'll make it through it.
Right. Well, then it looks like we are ready to wrap up for the evening, but before everyone heads out, I do have one more screen to share with you. So one moment. So thank you all so much for joining us today. Wait a minute, you see my lovely email. Hold on. Let's try that again. You don't want to see my email. That's still my email. Don't you love technology?
Right.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us this evening as I pull up the presentation for the third time, because third time is the charm. We really want to have you all complete your survey when you exit out of our presentation today. Here we go. Well, let me make it bigger for you so you all can see. Here we go. It'll be super quick. We really hope that you will take the time to complete it. Once again, there are many more sessions for you to choose from. Please head to our website, inacac.org/virtual-college-exploration to choose more sessions to learn more about your college journey. As we mentioned before, this recording will be available to you for you to rewatch if you missed a little note that you want to take away. But please, everyone have a fabulous evening, and we will see you all soon.